one question that refuses to leave the back of our mind. What if I give it my everything and I still don't succeed? It's the uncertainty of success holds us back. It doesn't always stop us from starting, but it does stop us from fully committing. Since childhood, we've been trained to expect the worst. What started out as protection has now turned into paralysis. And now they show up as overthinking, anxiety, indecision, as asking for certainty in a world that only gives you opportunity. You either grab that opportunity or you spend the entire day watching somebody else ride what could have been yours. Your dreams don't die in disasters, they die slowly in the comfort of your indecision. So stop asking, should I jump? And start asking, what am I losing by staying here? A very scary place to be. Giving your all to something that might not give you back anything. Everybody fails. Constantly, continuously, again and again and again. The journey isn't the price that you pay for success. It's the part that you will miss the most one day. But here's the solution. The next time the what if pops into your head, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of SOOD IT OUT. Now in this mini-series, we've already talked about the three fears that tend to hold us back. The fear of being alone, the fear of being judged by others, and the fear of stepping outside of our comfort zones. And how to overcome them. If you haven't watched those videos yet, you can find them right here. Now even after we overcome all of these hurdles, there's one fear that still lingers. It shows up just when you're about to go all in. It's the one question that refuses to leave the back of our mind. In fact, it's here with me right now as I sit here talking to you people. What if I give it my everything? My effort, my time, my heart, and I still don't succeed. It's not the fear of failure, it's the uncertainty of success that quietly holds us back. It doesn't always stop us from starting, but it does stop us from believing, from fully committing. Now the funniest part is that most of our misery doesn't come from failure itself. It comes from forecasting failure, from this constant need to control every outcome, to read the future. It comes from our imagination, from what we've been trained to expect could go wrong. Picture this. You're 5 years old again in a park and you see a swing, that beautiful red plastic seat that feels like freedom. And you start running without thinking. You don't ask, you don't walk, you run. You don't wonder if it's safe, you don't look at the bolts holding it in place. You run and launch yourself onto that swing like the world owes you that moment. Now fast forward 20 years, that same swing is still there. And the child who once used to run towards it with abandon has now grown up. He's a lot smarter, a lot wiser, but now you freeze. You look at the bolts holding it in place, you wonder if it might break, you wonder how far you might fall. And while you stand there, busy calculating angles, running simulations in your head, another kid runs up to it, just like the one you once were, and takes the ride that you talked yourself out of. And that's what life has become for most of us. Not a story of lack, not of failure, but of hesitation. Of standing in front of something that we want and talking ourselves out of it because nobody gave us a guarantee. And it's not even our fault. Since childhood, we've been trained to expect the worst. Swing too high, गिर गया तो, wander into the market alone, खो गया तो, go to the terrace alone, अगर कोई खींच कर ले गया तो. What started out as protection has now turned into paralysis. And you know, it made sense when we were kids. The world was too big and we did need boundaries. But nobody told us when to stop. So we just carried these warnings into adulthood. And now they show up as overthinking, anxiety, indecision, as asking for certainty in a world that only gives you opportunity. You either grab that opportunity and take the swing, or you spend the entire day watching somebody else ride what could have been yours. You see, sometimes you have to jump, not because it's safe, not because it's certain, but because waiting too long is the only guaranteed way to miss it. But instead of doing this, all of us, we build these imaginary flowcharts in our head, trying to run simulations of a life before actually living it. Psychologists call it analysis paralysis. I like to call it death by overthinking. Imagine if Deepinder Goyal, the founder of Zomato, had sat there thinking, कि यार, will people order food online? What if the restaurant say no? What if this does not work out? तो तुम आज तक अपनी लेट नाइट मंचीज के लिए ना डोलमा आंटी की मोमोज की जगह अपने पास वाले ठेले के मोमो खा रहे होते और रोज सुबह अपनी जिंदगी को गालियां निकालते हुए तब उठते जब मम्मी चीख के कहती कि बेटा जा जरा साइड वाली दुकान से दूध पकड़ ले. You see, we're also wound up in trying to control all aspects of our lives. That it's not the fall that we fear. It's losing control mid-air. We want a safety net, a sign from the universe. But what we tend to forget is that even gravity requires you to let go before it can take you anywhere. And remember, your dreams don't die in disasters, they die slowly. in the comfort of your indecision, in the what ifs, in the maybe later. So stop asking should I jump and start asking what am I losing by staying here. यार अब बात ऐसी है कि मैं ना इधर बैठा बैठा तुमको ज्ञान देता रहता हूँ, बट एवरी टाइम आई स्पेंड द इंटायर डे वर्किंग ऑन दिस पॉडकास्ट, आई can't help but think to myself यार कि what if all of this effort go to waste, and I just wish that somebody would come along and tell me कि भाई बस 30 वीडियो तक रुक जा फिर सक्सेस मिल जाएगी. I would stay up all night and record 29 videos back to back, but unfortunately that's just not how it works, because as I said before, the real fear isn't of doing hard work, it's of doing everything right and still not succeeding, of imagining that your best might not be enough, and that's a very scary place to be. Giving your all to something that might not give you back anything. But here's the solution. The next time the what if pops into your head, flip it and ask yourself, so what? So what if I fail? So what if this crashes and burns? What's the worst that happens? You course correct, you start over, but at least you did something that mattered to you in that moment. At least you showed up for yourself when it wasn't easy. And that's something most people never do. Because if you look at it objectively, you'll realize that failure isn't that dramatic monster that your brain makes it out to be. The regret of never trying is. Failure is just data and feedback. And all that Harvey Specter bullshit about never failing, I only win. Everybody fails. Constantly, continuously, again and again and again. Until they win. But regret? Regret is a silent ache that shows up years later when the window is closed and you can't climb back in. Most people only realize life is too short when they're forced to a medical scare, a personal loss, something that shakes them to the core and makes them question everything they once thought mattered. But why wait for pain to teach you urgency? Why wait for the universe to scream at you when you already know that you're playing it small? Because the thing is, you don't need clarity to start. You just need courage. Courage to move without knowing where it ends. And maybe that's the most underrated skill in life. Not confidence, not talent, not perfection, but the quiet bravery of trying anyway. So don't chase certainty, chase growth, chase meaning, chase the version of yourself that would have made your younger self proud. And for God's sake, have some fun along the way. Don't be so fixated on the end game that you forget to enjoy the game itself. Because I'll tell you a pattern that I've noticed talking to very, very rich and successful people. None of them like to talk about their current lives. You meet them at a party, give it a few hours, a couple of drinks, and the conversations always tend to circle back to the same thing, the beginning. The 4x4 room they started in, the first rejection, the sleepless nights, the chaos. Nobody reminisces about the day they bought the Bentley. All of them remember the day they had 5,000 rupees in their pocket and the 5,000 crore dream they chased anyways. Because the journey isn't the price that you pay for success. It's the part that you will miss the most one day. And you know how in movies there's a narrator who always shows up and says,
"This is where your story begins."
Well, Morgan Freeman isn't coming here to do that. You're the only one who gets to decide it. So here's a radical experiment. Treat this as your day one. Say it out loud. This is where my story begins. Write it in the comments, post it on your story, send this to someone who's also stuck in the waiting room of life. Because you know what kills overthinking and fear faster than any motivational quote? Yeah. Momentum. Small, imperfect, messy action. One swing, one post, one attempt to live your life without needing a permission slip. And if you needed a sign, this is it. This podcast, this conversation, this line. Because you don't need certainty to change your life. You just need to move while you're still scared. So go ahead, jump, and I'll see you on the other side. I almost forgot. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Fear Unlocked by SOOD IT OUT. I'm your host, Achintya Sood. If you liked today's conversation, please hit that subscribe button so that I have additional motivation to keep going. And of course, don't forget to take a deep breath, sit with it, think about it, and of course, keep moving forward and keep listening to SOOD IT OUT. I'll see you in the next one.